Muhammad Ali was driving through rural Georgia when he saw something that made his blood boil: a diner with a whites only sign in the window. His entourage begged him not to go in, but Ali had other plans. What he said to the owner in those next 10 minutes left the entire diner in tears. It was the summer of 1974, just 3 months after Ali had shocked the world by defeating George Foreman in Kinshasa, Zaire, in the legendary Rumble in the Jungle. At 32 years old, Muhammad Ali was once again the heavyweight champion of the world. He was famous, he was powerful, and he was driving through one of the most racist parts of America. Ali and his small crew, including his longtime friend and photographer Howard Bingham, his trainer Angelo Dundee, and his assistant Bundini Brown, were traveling from Atlanta to a speaking engagement in a small Georgia town. The year was 1974, but in rural Georgia, it might as well have been 1954. The Civil Rights Act had been law for 10 years, but in this part of the South, old hatreds died hard. "We'd been driving for about 2 hours," Howard Bingham later recalled. "Ali was hungry, and we were looking for some place to eat. Then we saw this diner on the side of the road. It was a small, run-down place called Miller's Diner. The paint was peeling, the parking lot was dirt, and there in the window, plain as day, was a handmade sign that read, 'Whites only, no colored served.' Bundini Brown saw it first. 'Champ, keep driving, that place ain't for us.' But Ali had already stopped the car. He sat there for a moment, staring at that sign, his jaw clenched tight. 'Ali, come on, man,' Angelo Dundee said from the back seat. 'We'll find somewhere else. This ain't worth it.' Muhammad Ali didn't say a word. He just opened the car door and started walking toward the diner. 'Oh no,' Howard Bingham said, grabbing his camera. 'Here we go.' The three men scrambled out of the car and followed Ali. They knew that look on his face. They'd seen it before he walked into the ring. It was the look of a man who had made up his mind, and nothing was going to change it. When Ali pushed open the door to Miller's Diner, the bell above it rang, and every conversation inside stopped dead. There were maybe 15 people in the place, all of them white, all of them staring. Behind the counter stood a large man in his 50s, with a greasy apron and a face that had seen too much sun and too much hate. His name was Earl Miller, and this was his diner. He'd inherited it from his father, who had inherited it from his father. 3 generations of Millers had run this place, and 3 generations had refused to serve black people. Earl Miller's eyes went wide when he recognized Muhammad Ali. For a split second, something that might have been excitement flashed across his face. Then he remembered where he was and who he was, and his expression hardened into stone. "We don't serve your kind here," Miller said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Can't you read the sign?" The diner was silent. A few customers looked uncomfortable. Others looked eager, like they were hoping for a confrontation. One elderly couple quietly stood up and left. Muhammad Ali walked slowly to the counter, his eyes never leaving Earl Miller's face. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost friendly. "I can read just fine," Ali said. "In fact, I've read a lot of things. I've read the Constitution of the United States. I've read the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And I've read the Quran, which teaches me that all men are brothers, regardless of the color of their skin." Miller's face reddened. "I don't care what you've read. This is my property, and I got a right to refuse service to anyone I want. Now get out before I call the sheriff." Ali didn't move. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone in that diner. He smiled. "You know who I am?" Ali asked. "Yeah, I know who you are. You're Cassius Clay, the boxer." "Muhammad Ali," Ali corrected gently. "And you're right, I am a boxer. In fact, I'm the heavyweight champion of the world. 3 months ago, I beat George Foreman, a man everyone said couldn't be beaten. I've fought the toughest men in the world, and I've won most of those fights." Miller crossed his arms. "What's your point?" "My point," Ali said, still smiling, "is that I could walk behind that counter right now, and there ain't nothing you could do to stop me. I could knock you out with one punch. I could tear down that sign in your window. I could make you regret every racist thing you've ever said or done." The tension in the diner was thick enough to cut. Miller's hand moved towards something under the counter, probably a baseball bat, or maybe worse. "But I'm not going to do that," Ali continued, his voice still calm. "You know why? Because I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to ask you a question." Miller's hand stopped moving. "What question?" "I want to know who taught you to hate." For the first time, Earl Miller looked uncomfortable. His eyes darted to the other customers, but none of them met his gaze. "My daddy," Miller said finally. "My daddy taught me that whites and coloreds don't mix. That's just how things are." "And who taught your daddy?" Ali asked. "His daddy, I guess." And so on, Ali said, nodding. 3 generations of Millers, all teaching the next generation to hate people they don't even know. All teaching their sons that the color of a man's skin is more important than the content of his character. Ali leaned against the counter, his posture relaxed, conversational. "Let me tell you something about my life, Earl." "Can I call you Earl?" Miller didn't respond, but he didn't object either. "I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky," Ali continued. "When I was 12 years old, my bicycle got stolen. I was so angry, I wanted to fight whoever took it. A police officer named Joe Martin told me I better learn how to fight first, so he taught me how to box. You know what's interesting about Joe Martin, Earl? He was white." Ali paused, letting that sink in. "The man who changed my life, who set me on the path to becoming heavyweight champion of the world, was a white man. My trainer, Angelo here," Ali gestured to Dundee, "he's white. Some of my best sparring partners were white. Some of my toughest opponents were white. And you know what I learned? White people ain't all the same, just like black people ain't all the same. There's good ones and bad ones in every color." "That's different," Miller muttered. "Those are your people, your work people." "No," Ali said firmly, "they're just people. That's my point. When I look at you, Earl, I don't see a white man. I see a man who's scared." "I ain't scared of nothing," Miller shot back. "Yes, you are," Ali said gently. "You're scared of change. You're scared that if you treat black people like human beings, something bad will happen. Maybe you're scared your daddy would be disappointed. Maybe you're scared your customers will leave. Maybe you're scared that admitting you were wrong all these years means you wasted your whole life hating people for no good reason." Earl Miller's jaw worked, but no words came out. Ali turned to look at the other customers in the diner. "How many of you agree with Earl here? How many of you think that sign in the window is right?" Nobody raised their hand. A few people looked at their plates. One middle-aged woman spoke up quietly. "Earl, the law says you can't have that sign anymore." "I don't care about the law," Miller said, but his voice had lost its conviction. Ali turned back to Miller. "Let me tell you what I see when I look at that sign, Earl. I see fear pretending to be strength. I see a man hiding behind his daddy's hate because he's too scared to think for himself. I see someone who could be better but chooses not to be." "I ain't scared of nothing," Miller said. "You're right, I don't," Ali agreed, "but I'd like to. See, here's what I believe, and this comes from my faith, from Islam. I believe that Allah created all people equal. I believe that the only thing that makes one person better than another is their actions, not their skin color. And I believe that it's never too late to change." Ali reached into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill. He placed it on the counter. "I want to buy lunch for everyone in this diner," Ali said. "Black or white, it doesn't matter. I want everyone here to eat together, as equals, as human beings." Miller stared at the $20 bill like it was a snake. "I ain't taking your money," he said. "Why not?" Ali asked. "Is it because I'm black? Because I thought money didn't have a color." A few people in the diner actually laughed at that. The tension was beginning to break. Ali leaned in closer, his voice dropping so only Miller could hear. "Earl, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to really hear me. In 10 years, maybe 20, you're going to be an old man, and you're going to look back on your life and ask yourself what you stood for. Are you going to be proud that you kept a racist sign in your window? Are you going to tell your grandchildren that you once refused service to the heavyweight champion of the world because of the color of his skin? Or are you going to tell them about the day you changed, the day you chose to be better?" Earl Miller's hands were shaking. His eyes were red. "I don't know how," he said quietly. "How to what?" Ali asked. "I don't know how to change. This is all I've ever known." Ali smiled, and this time it was warm, genuine. "You start by taking down that sign." For a long moment, Earl Miller stood frozen.
Then slowly, he walked from behind the counter. Every eye in the diner followed him as he went to the window, reached up, and tore down the whites only sign. He crumpled it in his hands, walked to the trash can, and threw it away. When he turned back, there were tears running down his face. "I'm sorry," he said, and his voice broke. "I'm sorry for that sign. I'm sorry for turning people away. I'm sorry for being a hateful man." Muhammad Ali walked over and put his hand on Earl Miller's shoulder. "That's the bravest thing I've seen all week," Ali said, "and I just fought George Foreman." The diner erupted in applause. People were crying, laughing, shaking their heads in disbelief. Howard Bingham was snapping pictures as fast as his camera would allow. Ali looked at Miller and said, "Now how about that lunch? I'm starving." For the first time in probably 20 years, Earl Miller smiled a real smile. "Coming right up, champ." That afternoon, Muhammad Ali sat at the counter of Miller's diner and ate a cheeseburger and fries. Customers, both black and white, came in to meet him, shake his hand, and ask for autographs. Earl Miller served them all with equal respect and courtesy, his hateful sign nowhere to be seen. Before Ali left, Miller pulled him aside. "I just want you to know, you changed my life today. I don't expect you to believe me, but I mean it. I'm going to be better. I believe you, and I'll be checking on you." Muhammad Ali kept that promise. Over the next several years, he would stop by Miller's diner whenever he was in Georgia. Each time, he found the place more integrated, more welcoming. Earl Miller became a different man. He hired his first black employee in 1975. By 1978, half his staff was black. He became an active member of his local church's integration efforts.
In 1980, Earl Miller wrote a letter to Muhammad Ali. In it, he thanked Ali for knocking some sense into me without throwing a punch. He told Ali that he'd told his children and grandchildren the story of that day dozens of times, and that it had become the most important day of his life. "You taught me that strength isn't about hate," Miller wrote. "It's about having the courage to change." When Earl Miller died in 1992, his family reached out to Muhammad Ali. They told him that Miller's final wish was for Ali to know that the cheeseburger he'd eaten that day in 1974 was still the proudest meal Miller had ever served. The story of what happened at Miller's diner spread throughout Georgia and beyond. Other establishment owners, seeing what Miller had done, began taking down their own racist signs. Some did it quietly, ashamed. Others did it publicly, proudly. Muhammad Ali never bragged about what happened that day. When reporters asked him about it, he would simply say, "I just had a conversation with a man. He did all the hard work." But those who were there knew the truth. Muhammad Ali had walked into a place of hate, armed with nothing but his words, his dignity, and his unshakable belief in the fundamental goodness of people. He had faced down racism not with his fists, but with his humanity. And he had won the kind of victory that matters more than any championship belt. Because anyone can knock a man down with violence, but it takes a true champion to lift a man up with words. Today, the building that once housed Miller's Diner still stands in rural Georgia. It's been converted into a community center. And on the wall, there's a plaque that reads, "On this site in 1974, Muhammad Ali taught us that the most powerful weapon against hate is not a fist, but an open heart." If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the fight against hate isn't won in a single moment. It's won in 1,000 small conversations, one changed mind at a time. And sometimes, all it takes is one person brave enough to walk through that door. Muhammad Ali showed us that you don't need to throw a punch to knock out hate. Sometimes all you need is the courage to speak the truth with love.